You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hi, everybody. This is Miss Jen, and this is Talkin' Shop, and we're doing things differently today. We're getting crazy up in here. We have local folk
in the building. I'm actually here as a person.
This is as live gets.
Yes.
See you guys in a second. And welcome. I just want to say a special welcome to Tom McDonald, who is a new member of the channel. That is awesome. We love it so much. John Spilios is on. What's up, Mr. S? We as a channel only exist because you guys are supportive and share out that you're watching us, and you give us likes and you give us warm fuzzies that way. We appreciate it very much because, you know, we're going to keep showing up and doing this stuff because we love doing it. But it's way more fun when you guys show up and tell other people to show up. Hey, Brandy Singh is here. Belcom? What does that mean? Explain. We are being broadcast right now on YouTube, Facebook. Occasionally we'll see people comment from Twitch. And we're working on getting a bunch of other stuff put on too. It's because you love us. See, and by the way, John is also a member of the channel and is part of the support team for us. We are so thankful. Okay, so you guys have noticed there's something different. There's not a mannequin sitting next to me. This is actual person.
I'm a real human. I'm a person.
Hello. So I've known Ben for a long time supporter of the store that we're sitting in right now, Space Cadets. And so much supportive that I've known him for a long time just as a teacher. And he has a really cool club at school. You guys want to tell everybody about the club that you have to get the kids excited about comics?
Gosh, and that's not hard because they're reading them so much, y'all. Like, I'm here to tell you. So I'm an English teacher at the local high school. And one thing I see a lot is that kids are just reading graphic novels, they're reading manga, they're reading webtoons, like they're into that for choice content. And a lot of kids want to make it. So we started a comics club back in, I think, 2016 or 17, just as a thing that ninth graders were doing. And it eventually spread to like the upper levels of our school as well. But we create an anthology every year that we take to a local comics convention. So this year we'll be back at Comic Palooza with original student created art. They take commissions, they kind of get a ground level view of what it looks like to work in North American comics so they can know where to go with that industry as they get older and start pursuing that into college. It's the kind of thing I wish I had when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And so they get to chase that, which is really fun.
I'm trying to think what clubs we got to put together. I think our biggest success as part of clubs is we had a chess club. And I grew up in a little small country town, so we got a Bible study together. It turns out if you have a teacher that will support a club, then you can have a club. Mm-hmm. And that was my jam. I'm a Bible nerd. Mm-hmm. Sorry, y'all. Bible nerddom is cool. Mm-hmm. So having a teacher that is willing to stand up and say, I understand what you were interested in, and I support that, and I want to encourage it, is so important because when you're young, you're kind of like trying to find your way in the world.
Yeah.
And having a teacher that's willing to go to bat for you is like the best. Hmm. How did you become an English teacher? Does that like always be your passion, teaching? Or is this something that just kind of like happened in life that just ended up being the best thing ever?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of the happenstance kind of thing. I remember I went to college and my freshman year, I could go in at that point undeclared. Mm-hmm. And I had a professor, an English professor, who kind of called out like, hey, like, you seem interested in this material, like you seem to contribute well, like would you want to pursue this as a major? And that made a lot of sense. And so I actually graduated with an English major, didn't really know where to go from there. Knew I loved comics. I had been a cartoonist at our campus paper at the same time. But it wasn't until I took a gap year to work at a summer camp program. And that was just about like learning nonprofit and kind of learning ministry type stuff, talking about Bible studies. It was a Christian camp that I really was like, well, I mean, I like working with young people and with literature, like English teaching might actually be the direction that I need to go. So it took a little time for that to come together, but once it did, it was, it felt like the most satisfying way to use my energies, right? Because mean, you probably see this at the store when young people
Yeah.
come in and engage with stuff, like they get excited. That gets you excited. There's like this perpetual emotion loop out of that. It's really awesome.
It's so true. I think that we come into like kind of this dangerous place in our society where because we don't necessarily understand teenagers that they must be up to something, right? And
Mhm.
when you think about when we were teenagers, largely we weren't up to something bad. We were just up to trying to figure out what where to head in life. So
Yeah.
we're just interested in a bunch of different stuff. So
Mhm.
I think it's so cool that that's kind of like the way it happened for you.
Mhm.
It looks like you were encouraged by a teacher too.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Without that person to champion you and that chain of people, I can think back to high school people who were encouragers. So I can still name off the top of my head. It's an absolute chain of blessing. There's no doubt.
Okay, so the things I want to say, I'm going to say, do a public thank you to Ben because for almost every big event that we have at this shop, if I say, oh man, I really need some help reaching the kids that are going to show up, do you think your club would be interested in helping out? They have come up with so many good, very interesting ways to reach the kids as they're coming for like free comic book day. You want to talk about, was it the kids that thought up what to do or?
Coming and doing like drawings and kind of giving their stuff and so forth. Yeah, I think that came organically out of that. And it's cool because, I mean, a lot of comics artists make their living off of commissions, right? Like they get paid for their freelance work, but when you commission them to, like Daniel Warren Johnson, you pay him to do a drawing, you're going to get something amazing.
Yeah.
And for students to be commissioned, like in their teenage years, that gives them confidence for the art that they're already creating. And in our case, our club takes that and puts it back in the club fund so we can pay for like a Comic Palooza table later. But yeah, it's still such a useful way to speak identity into them and then to give them a chance to draw Deadpool for somebody, as they would want to do anyway.
I love it when they did that they would do little mini classes for the kids and teach them like kind of sequential art panels or do face painting. I don't know, the kids were there all day long, and oftentimes because we're so packed inside, we would have their table as kind of like a draw outside. And I was always so impressed by your kids that they weren't ever like, man, it's like too hot or too cold or whatever, and it's not my jam.
Yeah.
They accepted where they were.
Right.
And we're like, draw those kids.
Yeah.
Come on over.
These Texan children tolerating all kinds of weather.
True.
It's always been good when we've tabled outside. That's been beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to say I do use you guys as the carrot a lot because I don't know.
That's perfect, man.
High school kids seem like they're not,
Yeah.
Like, what are those kids doing over there?
Oh, for sure.
What are those kids?
Kids are cool. What are these kids up to? Yeah, absolutely.
I see Ed Weird is on. Hey, Ed, how are you doing, man? If you guys have any questions, we're going to get around to the books and things that Ben is doing. But I like to get background so you guys get to know the people that are creating the things that you might love. So you were 51. You used to get picked on for reading comics in high school. John, I think we're very nearly the same age. I'm 52 right now. I'm going to be 53 in Feb. Yes, back in the day, it was not a popular thing to do to read comic books. So I think things have really changed. What is it like at the high school level? Are your club guys still feeling a little bit isolated as far as social, or that's just like everyone's reading comic books and manga, so it doesn't matter anymore?
No, honestly, I think there's been a sea change. I think with COVID, right, in the initial days we had lockdowns going on, people were looking for entertainment at home, and we've seen the ripple effects of that in traditional comics book channels and the direct market. A lot of my students got turned on to manga and anime through recommendations on TikTok. And so now, John, where you're talking about, I would have gotten picked on for comics. Like, man, I remember being a college freshman in 2004 and hiding Spider-Man comics in my backpack because I thought girls wouldn't talk to me. But now my basketball boys are reading Berserk, right? Like Chainsaw Man is the coin of the realm. I've got a kid who turned in a project on how Ralph Waldo Emerson's concepts of transcendentalism match with Monkey D. Luffy from One Piece. So suffice to say, comics, and that's not even talking about the webtoon impact.
A++.
Yeah, exactly. It's an easy one to grade. So suffice to say, I think comics have continued to saturate the pop culture conversation in a big way to the point where it's not just the movies and the characters, but the actual reading of comics content. And I think the big thing we want to figure out in North America is how do we reach the kids who come up through a realm of graphics books, Dogman, Reina stuff, and then move to manga thereafter. How do we also show them what local creators can do? That's a big question that I'm always trying to think about. Sure. But I think they've got openness to that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go on a tiny bit of rabbit trail. I always like it when I get to talk to a teacher. because I'm on the board of the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, and we're starting to see a whole bunch of challenges to graphic novels. You guys try to hold on to your brains here. We're seeing challenges to graphic novels as not being accepted as literature. I'm not talking about any of the other First Amendment right stuff where people are saying content isn't proper or whatever.
Sure.
I'm just talking about straight up graphic novels aren't literature. Are you guys seeing any of that pushback as teachers from?
No, so in the district we're in, we're a pretty large one north of Houston, and we've got good resources, but we've had people even kind of in our like central office who are responsible for managing teachers and developing them, who are very friendly towards graphic novels. Like one of my district instructional coaches would donate me copies of some of his books, like some of his Secret Wars spin-offs are in my classroom and so forth, right? I think in general, our librarians know that graphic novels circulate, and they know that kids are hungry for that material. And I think enough teachers are aware that content like Mouse, for instance, won a Pulitzer Prize, right? Or Gene Yang is not someone who's far from the knowledge of people who are conversant in books, and he was an ambassador for young people's literature. So I think there's progress to be made. But I think there's more of a case now that graphic novels aren't just an alternative to literature. They are literature than we've had in previous years. We're really lucky to be in that place. We've just got to hold fast to that, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so weird for me to have been like, I think the last time I saw this kind of attack on graphic novels, it's like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because for a little while now, people have been asking, what is the usefulness of organizations like the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund?
For sure.
And now we're able to show them like how much they're needed. Because
Well, for instance, like Genderqueer is one that I've not read, but I know it's come under fire in multiple districts, and I can imagine the Legal Defense Fund's efforts have been really useful to try to make sure that's not being pushed out of places where it can be helpful.
Well, I'll point out a book that is people would never believe has ever been on banned lists, but Drama by Telgemeier has been on the ban list for a very chaste same-sex kiss. And it was like, okay, well, like where do we have the line drawn for literature? Like we're getting kids to read and we have to teach independent thought, right? So they can decide for themselves,
right?
Or with parental guidance. It's just like any book, right? All books, movies, radio, song, all that stuff, they all rely on us to have a discerning eye to look at what we're reading and viewing and decide whether it's for us or like,
Oh yeah. And goodness forbid that a concerned parent's involved in their kids' reading life, right? Like that would actually be the ideal situation. But we hope that would be the case in a perfect world.
Isn't that true?
Yeah.
All right. Edward says that he teaches IT and math. Haven't personally experienced anything like that, but you would think anything that gets someone wanting to read is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I tell parents all the time, they would say things like even for like Pokemon cards and that kind of stuff. Like, I don't like Pokemon cards, it distracts the kids. I'm like, I'm sorry, but my kids learned how to read from Pokemon cards, learned first math from Pokemon cards, and strategy and good sportsmanship. And I said, all those things put together, I'm like, I don't know how I can say Pokemon is bad.
No, man. My brother-in-law, this is telling maybe too much. My parents-in-law were a little worried until they realized he could do all 150 Pokemon in the Pokérap. They're like, oh, he's just fine. Like he's just bored. He doesn't have problems. He's fine.
I can remember for a long time when my boys were probably my oldest was maybe 8. So the youngest was 5, just learning how to read. That they had memorized all of the cards that were up until then. So we're say Diamond and Pearl, why not?
Wow.
And I would just like quiz my kids. I'd be like, hey, what's Charmander's card have on it? They'd be like, oh, it has an HP of this. And here's the thing. And then it would go down like, and its first attack does 20 and it's word to word. It also teaches memorization.
Oh, that's flashcards right there. That's amazing. That's awesome.
How about getting your books into libraries? Oh, yes.
Oh, heck yeah. That's my man, Peter, who runs Comicer LLC, which publishes Waking Life, which is right back there. My first graphic novel, my solo graphic novel. So that is exciting news, Pete. I didn't know that, and that's so cool to hear.
All right, so how did you hook up with Comicer? Like, tell us what that is.
Yeah, so Comicer is a press originally based out of Austin, Michigan, and Pete is the owner and the operator of the press. And I submitted a Comicer back in 2016, wanting to create a webcomic based on some of the little Nemo concepts that Winsor McCay had originally come up with in the early 1900s. And they said yes. And the first volume of Waking Life came out in 2018. And I think the second volume is completed and ready for print when that next run happens. So we'll be looking forward to that in the near future.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think when I first met you, that was just getting done.
I think that's, it was before that came out. So around like 2017, early 18, I think.
And then you had those the smaller books that also had like kind of like they encouraged kids to do a thing instead of just being like, I'm going to read a book about a thing.
Yeah, it was a series of science project graphic novels. They were called Magnificent Makers, and each book had a project kids could do at home, and part of the book was dedicated to the characters walking you through how to do the project, but also realizing that just being told a project can be boring. We tried to craft a story around that where the kids creating the science project would solve a mess they got themselves into. So there was a little bit of a sitcom value to it.
I love this. I actually went to go out there and find them so I could, put them on the display over here.
Yeah, I may need to get some more comps to bring by.
They might be
gone. Yeah, I may need to talk to the publisher for that. That's on me on that.
Okay, so we understand your teacher journey.
Sure.
Have you always liked comics and tried to draw comics and written comics? Is this something new to you?
Yeah, I was lucky to get to talk about this on the Experience last year. I got a chance to talk to Kyle during the Experience Expo in 2022. Right. And I was looking back over this, but my origin story is really in 6th grade. I had friends bringing Toy Fair magazine. You remember Toy Fair?
Oh, so much.
Sister to Wizard.
Oh, yeah.
They had these Fumetti comics where they would have Mego characters doing stupid stuff. Twisted Mego Theater, which became Robot Chicken, right? And just the pop culture footprint.
Exactly.
I loved those. And for some reason, I really just got excited about Spider-Man from that. And so I started hunting down Spider-Man comics in the 6th grade. I did like a class project on Spider-Man. I was like keeping track of issues on note cards. But I just got really enraptured by the characters and the storytelling first. And when I got into college, I still had an interest in drawing and writing stuff down. And I took a stab at working for our campus paper and ended up doing about 2.5 years as an editorial cartoonist in and around taking some art classes. And that was really enjoyable and satisfying. I didn't know if comics would have a place in my life beyond that. But when I got into my adult years and I was newly married, I had a chance to draw a graphic novel for, of all things, a prison ministry program based in Houston. They had an 11-step curriculum that was designed to take people who had been convicted of crimes and to complete steps of restitution and restoration, where they could find kind of acceptance in the community again and find a way to connect with people who had been victimized by the kind of crimes they committed. So we took that curriculum and Kirk Blacker, the author of that graphic novel, wrote it up into a story based on a kid's life. And I drew it. And that was my first comic book. And it's rough. Like I couldn't draw 1-point perspective. I was looking at how Mobius would hatch things, but not paying attention to like proper anatomy. So there's a lot of growth in those pages, Stitchin, but it was for a good cause. And that's what really created momentum in making comics like in my adult years as something that was additive to, but not separate from like my teaching path.
Do you have copies of that work?
I do. I've got at least one at the house. I just recently assigned the rights to it back to that prison ministry. So I was making a royalty off of it for a period of time, but the author and I both vested our royalties back in their program. So they own wholesale. But
so they might print it all up again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's actually through Amazon's print on demand feature. So you can do it right kind of whenever. Yeah. It's easy enough.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's a good journey. So, but yeah, from there it was mini comics and small graphic novels and small press stuff. And here we are today.
All right. Yeah. John S. has got a cool story. This is blowing my mind. Yes. Mom used to clean Kubert's house.
In New Jersey? Or New York?
Right. So for everyone else, you can read it on there, but I'll read it out loud in case you have a bad eyesight like me. It's funny how he got into comics. Mom used to clean Joe Kubert's house. They became friends. So we used to rent our basement to students from his school and used to sneak downstairs to read their books.
That would be an amazing library. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine all the Hawkman he was getting into there? Oh, Dover, New Jersey.
Dover, New Jersey.
That is awesome, John. That's amazing. I'm envious. That guy's a legend.
Yeah, that's incredible. Love the stories. Like it's so cool to see how everyone's lives have been touched by comics in the past and then now. Yeah.
Well, and one thing we love about Kubert is that he literally started a school for comics, right? He didn't just stay in the editorial office. He was also a teacher. And his sons continue that tradition, right? So it's cool to know how that impact kind of flows as well.
Yeah, I got to talk to Emma the other day. It's amazing. My brain exploded a little.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Was it about some of her Frank Miller stuff?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Got to talk about hers is Pandora, right?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to tap your brain on that one. I'm really interested. That's a whole exciting one.
It's good stuff. Okay, so talk about Waking Life a little bit. I remember when you released it. We had a cool little signing here. Yeah. It's an interesting size. Like, how did you decide the digest size for it, for one?
Yeah.
And it could be as simple as money.
I think because it fit nicely with the size that we were seeing with Tonkabons, with manga format books, right? Like it would fit neatly on the shelf next to that. And it's got a profile for a middle grade reader, which would fit nicely with like kind of young shonen or shoujo type stuff. But Waking Life is really about a kid who wants to be an animator, right? Like he's obsessed with Pixar films, and, DreamWorks movies. And he wants to get an internship as a high school student where he can go to an animation studio. But he's had this imaginary friend for a long time that he started to grow apart from. He literally sees her in his dreams. And she really exists as an entity in a separate dream world. And as he starts to outgrow her, she decides that she's not down for that. And so she comes here to reinsert herself into his life as he's trying to accomplish this big project, which opens up this rift between the dream world and the real world that creates a whole host of issues for both of them. So it's a little drama, it's a little fantasy, it's a little comedy, but it's really a story about friendship and how we need people to help us create.
Everyone's sharing their stuff. Sean Butler shows up. Hello, Sean. Kenneth Burrs is in the house. You can ask questions if you like. I know we're going to get to his book that's actually releasing this week. We've got distracted by all the fun stuff. Yes. Edward says his dad bought him his first comic when he was 4 or 5, early on. Favorite thing in the world is watching Spider-Man on Electric Company.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Spidey Super Stories with John Romita covers. Those are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Okay. Oh, yeah. You met Ben at the first free comic book day.
Sean, that's right. That was a long time ago, man. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. So Sean's part of the family of Jenna and Jay. They're all part of the same place. Best thing is Michael Chen was one of the students who lived in your house and is now the dean.
Oh, the Kubert School. I think that's what John's talking about. Yep. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
You guys are awesome. All right. Are we going to be on tomorrow's show? Sean, how are you doing? Are you asking if Sean will be on the show, or are you asking?
Yeah, I think he's asking if he's going to be on In Stores this week with us tomorrow.
Oh, I don't know.
Stay tuned.
We'll definitely have books available during the they're going to do review on it for a minute to skim it, so you can totally get that. You're looking for Sean. Okay, cool. Just making sure who you asking is going to be on. All right, so we've got a special thing. We're going to do like the magic of television here. And I'm going to let Ben open up. He got his comp copies delivered here to the store. So I'm going to let him open up his big bindle back there and show you his book.
It's kind of double exciting. So my publisher for this book is Band of Bards. And they've got another comic called Coins of Judas, which we just found out today is sold out at the distributor level. Like it is all completely up there. And you got special variants. So they were shipped here to the store, and Band of Bards was like, well, we've got comps for you. We know Space Cadets is your store. Do you just want it to sit there? And I was like, that sounds perfect. So I haven't physically handled a copy of this book yet. And I sent it off to the printer like 2 months ago. So I'm very pleased to see this. And if you're going to forgive me out there, I've got a pocket knife. I don't condone violence on camera, but I do condone cutting strip brand.
All right. While you're cutting that open, Sean wants to know, how would you say being a teacher has influenced your writing?
I think on one hand, it gives me a look at a market that's really important to comics, which is teens, which is students, right? Like what they're reading is really going to drive the future of this industry. And it also gives me a chance to get honest feedback on my work. So if I'm showing them works in progress, that's helpful. I would say too, having worked with editors and getting notes on scripts and having to revise, that gives me a chance to show them my mistakes and give them courage in the process of their own writing. A lot of times we feel the pressure to like write a good essay in the first try, and really good writing is good revision. So when I can show them, hey, here's work that I've done for publication that wasn't great the first time and got some notes, that gives them permission to take some chances and do a messy first draft and then a more refined draft later. So that's really helpful. So I can bring my process in and show them that, and then they inform my process. And then I've also got a creative writing class of students that just blow my socks off, and I am living in awe of them. They make me just want to create more because they're being so creative. So, all right, well, let me unwrap this guy. This is the first fresh bundle of Brody Can't Be Broken, and it's large format size, and it smells like comic books.
Yeah, that's what you want right there. It's like, digital comics are fine, but there's nothing like the smell of a real comic book.
Well, and I'll tell you, with Comixology having some bad news recently, this is a very good time for print comics. All things considered. Oh my gosh, it looks like a real comic book.
It totally does.
It has pages and everything, Jen.
The coloring is amazing.
Oh, I'm delighted by this. Well, so here's a fun story about the coloring on Brody in Waking Life and my other stuff. I'm not a great colorist, so I stole a color palette from 1930s comics. There's like a 64 color palette for silver golden age comic. Yeah, it's a limited palette. It limits my choices. So I just color like they would have colored Plastic Man, like the notes Jack Cole would have given to somebody back in the day. But oh my gosh, it's real. Mom, are you proud of me? It's real.
They should have comic book smell air fresheners. Maybe.
But
you'd have to have two kinds. You'd have to have new comic books printed with new ink, and then you have to have the old. If you stick your nose in the middle of a good acidic old school book, there's nothing like it.
Some yellow newsprint.
Nothing like holding a comic book over a tablet. Yeah, tablets are kind of like, I don't know. If I don't get a hand cramp after reading a book, I haven't really done it right, I don't think.
That's right.
All right, so explain Brody.
Okay, let's talk Brody briefly. So this is a story about two essential super first responders. Their job is to go into mass crisis situations and to help people who are victims of like large circumstance issues. It's set in 2095. The Earth has gone through a lot of climate challenges, and humanity's trying to pull its bootstraps together. But we've done something that's woken up the ancient demigods. We talked about Bible study type stuff. You're kind of Nephilim, you're ancient angels. They're back, and they want to put humanity in its place. So Brody and Amanda, they're these first responder characters. They are tasked with stopping a demigod from destroying the center of human civilization. And they are just defensive players. They have no offensive capabilities. So the question is, can they do it? Can they keep each other safe in the process? And what will they learn about the nature of sacrifice along the way? So it's got a lot of punching, a lot of explosions, and a lot of heartbreak packed into 64 pages. And I hope people love it.
I secretly have read this because I always need to know what's going on. I think it's amazing. I like this is a very simple, heartfelt story, straightforward story. So it's not like a bunch of extra exposition happening. It is literally an awesome way to explain how to say things without ruining anything in this book. Can you be a superhero or part of a superhero team and know that you have feelings for somebody and have it not affect whether you do a good job or not?
Yeah, I think it's not giving too much away to say, like, I've kind of lied about this comic. I'm like selling it as an action book, but it's really a romance comic. It's a romance comic. It's got a lot of punching, like almost all punching, but it's really a romance comic at its core. There are kisses, but you have to read it to find out where.
Yeah, it's like don't you have in your credits like a relationship expert?
My friend CJ Hudson, who's doing some books through Band of Bards as well, is our intimacy consultant here. Because I was like, how do I make this scene work well? It's just a chaste kissing scene, guys. It's fine. Your whole family can enjoy this comic book. But he gave me some tips, and he gets that credit.
Yeah, if your family can handle Princess Bride,
that's a great comp. I'm going to use that in the future. Knowledge.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're super excited about this. Do ask your local comic shop about this book because Band of Bards is a fairly new company. They might not be on your local comic shop's radar. If you keep asking them about books that are coming out from them, like this and Coins of Judas and the books that are coming out soon, then they might at least be thinking about it when they're looking at the previews guide or FOC to make their orders. So it's important to do that.
Well, and it'll be helpful to say they're not in the February previews catalog, but they'll be back in March. So there's a month off kind of to assess our sales data. And then March, they're back in there. So if you're looking for Band of Bards stuff, that's the next time you'll see them in there, and that'll be really good.
Perfect. We have like half of mine is second right now. Where should people follow you?
On Twitter, at BenHumanek. If you want to look at my name, that's how you spell it. On Instagram, at Ben.Humanek.
Perfect. All right, we're going to take a break and come back. We get to talk to Amanda Deibert next.
Did you know that across America there are over 2, maybe even 3 live stream producers who can't even afford Mountain Dew? Take Brian here. Brian has gone 2 weeks without a sip of Red Bull. If it goes on much longer, he may take a shower and get a real job. Situations like this are as tragic as they are preventable. Join the experience on YouTube and gain access to special emojis and members-only streams. For less than a cup of coffee, you can keep socially awkward hermit people working from their parents' basements where they belong. Scan the QR code on the screen to join. You'll be glad you did.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Yes, Brainy, that advertisement might have been referring to you. When the staff showed that to me for the first time, I almost spewed milk on my nose because I thought it was so funny. So, mad props to production team for coming up with really funny ways to explain that we'd like to see them over on Twitter sometimes or on Twitch. All right, so let's talk Saturday morning cartoon comics. No, we're going to talk about all kinds of other cool stuff. But first, we have to have our awesome guests on. Let's welcome Amanda.
Hi.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Where are you? Where do you hail from? Where are you? What part of the country?
I am in Los Angeles.
Oh, that makes total sense. I always wonder if like people that are working and doing Hollywood things, do you have to live there? Is that really kind of like a must do?
Yes. I mean, if you're gonna work in the actual film or TV, pretty much you have to live here in New York if you're gonna do it. So yeah.
Is that because are there real writing rooms where everybody gets together and
Right. So that's the thing is you got to be. I mean, now since the pandemic, obviously that's changed a bit, and now there's Zoom rooms and things like that. But until a couple of years ago, it was really like if you're gonna be in a writing room, you have to be in the room. So yeah.
All right. So I just wanted to kind of get into a little bit of your background. And part of that is I was reading some awesome things about some really amazing things that are not comic book related or show related at all, but instead your cool gratitude journal. I was like, what? This person is amazing. I must get to know her. It sounds like, because the title is You Already Have All the Answers. And I read that it was born out of a Twitter experiment you were doing.
Yeah, it's a total Twitter baby. What happened was back in 2016, I started asking kind of gratitude-based questions, but the idea was can I ask questions in such a way that I can kind of trick people into remembering the things about life that make life wonderful, the things, and not that life is always easy, but it's actually yes, you've been through really hard, really crappy things and you've survived, or there have been people in your life who helped make them less horrible, or I was asking questions like, tell me about a time that a stranger did something that really made your day or changed your life, or tell me about something that you're glad that you survived or that you've overcome. And I was asking these kinds of questions, and I thought a couple people would respond. It was just throw things out on social media and you see.
Yes.
And instead they went super, super viral, and people got really vulnerable and opened up and started sharing these really intense, beautiful, hard, sometimes heartbreaking life stories. And then other people would come in and, when I went through a loss like that, this is what was helpful to me, or this is something that somebody did for me. And it kind of built a community. And anytime I would stop, people would be like, oh, keep asking questions. And so I've been asking these questions on Twitter since 2016. And at some point somebody was like, I wish these stories were in a book because it's so inspirational to read all these things that people have, been through and overcome and done, and all these beautiful life stories, and it'd be really inspiring. And I didn't feel comfortable taking other people's stories and putting it out in a book. Like, that's not my story to tell, even though they were telling them publicly.
Mhm.
So what I came up with instead was you already have the answers, so every month you could start at any time, but every month is a theme. So I start with what you're already doing right. So that's a theme that, like, for 30 days, you have questions that help remind you of all the things that, like, you're already, like, doing great. You've got this, you've done this. And then it gets into things, like the helpers, or when times are dark, or all kinds of different things. And so there's a question for every day that you journal. And I always start the theme with, like, a few of my thoughts on it. And then I share a couple of my own answers so that you get that community, like, you're not doing this alone thing. So yeah, that's how that whole thing started.
So did you start them to have just like for just your friends to have like little conversations, or were you in your own life needing some more positivity, or hoping for positivity to pour in?
I mean, I think I was just thinking about, it was November. It was the 2016 election season. So, like, things were really volatile. People were very emotionally charged. And I was thinking about, like, gratitude in general. And then I was like, but nobody really cares if I post a list of, like, the things I'm grateful for. Like, that's not going to do anything. But what if I can get other people to kind of start talking about the things they're grateful for? And so that's kind of how it happened. I just threw it out into the wind to see if that was something. And then it ended up being something that people really did respond to, really did want and need. And I think it was just like, it was an emotionally charged time then. It has continued to be a really hard time. So it's like, great, here we are.
Okay, so has it become increasingly hard to think of new, unique questions to ask?
Do you know what's wild is no, it's been like 7 years. And I think I've just kind of gotten, I don't know, like, so accustomed to it. And now it's like a month, because I'm doing it like almost every day, pretty much every day. So it's an interesting skill to have, like, kind of accidentally developed.
I wonder if you have you ever posted one and realized, oh man, I think I posted that exact one last year.
I mean, I have reused questions sometimes, like, especially for certain times of year, or there's certain things that we can answer differently almost every day, like, depending on what's going on. So, like, there are definitely questions that over the years that I have, brought back. But I don't think there's ever been one that I thought was like a new, fresh question and then was surprised to find that it wasn't.
I have old woman moments myself where I'm like, oh no.
I mean, look, I don't trust my brain in a lot of ways.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you were so talented. You've done all kinds of amazing things. What was this always your dream to do this, or did you have secret dreams as a young one to, like, be an astronaut, and this is the left turn that you got?
I mean, I've always been a storyteller. I've always been a writer, and I was an avid reader as a girl. And so that was always part of it. I was also, for a while in my 20s, I was also an actress. So I guess that was the other path. I majored in acting and minored in screenwriting. And then I came out here and was more doing acting. And then I started to pivot more to the writing. And, eventually, if you're writing full time, like when I was staffed on a show, then it was harder to go on auditions or, like, go do things. So it ended up being like, then I went into writing more full time. And I've been very, very happy with that. But yeah, so it was kind of always storytelling, always the arts. It was always kind of going to be this.
Did you start out in school in, like, doing theater?
Mm-hmm. Yes. That was my major.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So, okay. So this kind of feels like this happens to a lot of people where you have many, many talents and you kind of have to choose. You found a way to have a lot of talent and get to use it in different ways, so it's not boring, right?
That it really does help. It really, like, the diversity of the kinds of things that I write, I think keeps me from burnout maybe a little bit better than a lot of people. So I'm really grateful. And also, if I'm stuck on something, I can kind of pivot to something else for a while and let like the back of my brain work out a story problem while I do something else. And that's very helpful too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I've read the list, but maybe we have a bunch of people watching right now. I'm going to say hi to John because John's on there, and Preston and Sean and Nick are all having big discussion right here because I mentioned Saturday morning cartoons. Now they're all listing all their favorite Saturday morning cartoons. Such a goofball. But for everybody that may not know your awesome history in comics, what are some of your favorites that you've got to work on?
Well, my first like big comic story was Sensation Comics featuring Wonder Woman. So that one's always going to be near and dear to my heart. This Wonder Woman. My wife, Kat Staggs, was the illustrator on that one. So it was Wonderful Woman. I got to work with my wife. Like it was just a dream and wonderful. Did
you guys sit next to each other, or can you work in the same room, or are you?
I mean, she's literally just, I can see her. She's over there drawing another comic that we're working on together right now.
So yes, you can.
So yes, we do. We both work from home. I sit here and type comics, and she sits over there and draws them, and that's our day until our daughter comes home from school. So yeah.
Oh, how old is your young one?
She just turned 8.
Oh, that's such a good grade. Oh,
it's great. She's a great age. It's so fun.
Oh man. So precocious or
very
subdued?
Very precocious, very outgoing. She's very much like never meets a stranger. Super fun. So yeah.
That's so awesome. So okay. So also remember from the list Wonder Woman 77.
Mm-hmm.
So people want to go back and find some of these awesome things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any Marvel work?
I actually finally can say it. Yes, I just wrote my first ever for Marvel and Scholastic. It's a Rocket and Groot graphic novel that will be out, I think next year. I think it'll be out next year. So I'm really, really excited about that.
I hate to tell you that, but Scholastic is the way to your first billions of dollars, I think. I'm just thinking of Telgemeier.
Yeah. Scholastic is fun. I did a He-Man graphic novel for them a couple years ago because I also wrote on the He-Man animated series for Netflix, and so then they had me do graphic novels. So like this is my second Scholastic thing, which is they're fun to work with, and it's fun because I also like run the book fairs at my daughter's school. So then it's fun to like run the book fair but be in the book fair. Then you get to be kind of the cool mom.
How many of those kids are like, when you hand the book to them, like, I wrote this, or are they going to be like, sure, lady?
Well, they have, I mean, cutely because I've done quite a few middle grade comics like DC Superhero Girls and Teen Titans Go, and I've got like Star Wars hyperspace stories that are all like kid stuff. So like in their school library, they have a little section of like signed comics and graphic novels. My daughter's mom. Yeah. No, no pinups of me in the school library, but it does make me feel very giddy as like a kid who loved reading growing up. Like there's something really fun about being in the elementary school library that just makes my heart warm.
Okay, so we have some questions that are kind of interesting. Okay, so Nick Brucci says, "No, what happens when you give Kat art direction, or do you?" So I'm going to add on to that. Do you, or is it just intuitive now? You don't need to do it anymore.
I mean, well, the nice thing is we do have a shorthand. Obviously, when I'm writing something, I know that she'll know what I mean, or that she'll do something amazing and I don't have to worry about it. But we do also, we talk about things. I'll read the script to her while I'm working on it, and then she'll show me stuff and be like, I'm doing that. Or if she's like, what do you think, this or this? If she's kind of like grappling with how she wants to set up a page or a panel or something. Mm-hmm. So we definitely do talk about everything. It doesn't really happen that I would need to. I mean, the only reason I would give notes is if something wasn't clear for story, like, don't forget that this item has to be visible on the panel because it's like a clue for something else or whatever. But luckily with Kat, that doesn't really happen that often. So yeah, it's actually, I know it seems like it might be kind of hard to work with your spouse and also work from home with your spouse. I mean, we're together all the time, but the truth is we work together really well, and it's kind of nice.
I actually have interviewed quite a few people that they're married to another creative spouse that work together all the time. And there must be something maybe about what you're doing when you're creating things that makes it easier and less, like, I don't know, maybe when you're both creative people, then you're, like, get along really well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not that we never have any disagreements, but it's never about work. Like that's never like a source of any kind of like marital strife. So that's nice.
All right, so here's something you guys can fight about, because there's a question. The question here is from Brainy, who owns a store in Northridge, California. It says, most important question: triple chocolate cake or chocolate cheesecake?
I'm gonna go with cheesecake. I'm a cheesecake person.
Oh, okay, there you go. I don't know how he came up with that. I thought he might have had some secret information that is just like everything is chocolate about you.
I mean, if so, that would be news. I mean, I enjoy chocolate, but if he has secret information, I don't have it.
Preston asks, what would you like to do for your next project?
Well, that's a great question. There's a creator-owned project that I'd like to find the time to work on, that I'd like to do with my wife. And it's really about, I mean, luckily we both have a lot of projects and a lot of deadlines, which is a great thing. So that's probably going to be a minute. We do have an upcoming horror comic series that we're doing with John Carpenter and Sandy King Carpenter for Storm King Comics that will be out later this year that I'm pretty excited about. And I really do like doing like the horror comic stuff. So anytime I get to do more of that is pretty fun.
If our viewers out there have never read any of the Storm King things, anything that starts with the word John Carpenter, they are all amazing. They're usually little short runs of like 4 to 6, and they come out, I would say, fairly slowly. So you got to definitely add them to your pull list. But I have never read one that I didn't like. I especially liked, I think there was one called Red that was just killer. So yeah, definitely add it to your list so you don't miss that project when it comes. Do you have a name for it yet?
I haven't, it's not been announced yet, but we also do, there's John Carpenter's Tales for the Halloween Night that we do every year. That's a collection of, horror shorts, and Kat and I have done, I've done 7 of the 8, and I think Kat's done all 8 of the 8. So yeah,
wow,
that's fun too.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, so we're here to talk about the book that is coming out this week that I'm very excited about. I think Dynamite's been super smart about picking up a bunch of things that we all love but haven't seen around for a little while, and Darkwing Duck is one of those things. Did you grow up watching Darkwing Duck?
I did. And so did my younger sisters. So it was like when they were like, do you want to do Darkwing Duck? I was like, absolutely. Let's get dangerous. So it was really fun to go back and revisit that world and rewatch all the episodes to kind of, remind myself of the boys. It was fun.
Was there anything when you went back and did all that research? Was there things about the series that you had totally forgotten about? Was it as appealing, or did you look at it and say, okay, well, this isn't as good as I thought, or it's better than I thought?
I mean, there were definitely things that I had forgotten about. And also because I'm like looking at it in a much more intense way than just like as a kid watching cartoons, and, because I'm going like, okay, well, that's an interesting character and I can use that. And, so it's just like, it's my brain picking it apart in a much different way than when you're just a kid having a good time and watching cartoons. So but it was fun. It was a really fun thing. And, my daughter has this really skewed idea of what work is because of what her moms do. So I'll be like, hey, mommy has to binge watch Darkwing Duck cartoons. You want to do that with me? It's for work.
So did you become like experts at all the things that you get to work on? Like, I'm sure it's the same for when you write for TV, that you're like, okay, I have to go back and watch what's come before.
Yes. It's like, I mean, as long as it's age appropriate, anything that's kids content, then I watch with her and it's really fun. There's some things that we can't, but yeah, she just has this very funny idea of like, mommy watches a whole bunch of cartoons and then gets to like write stories about the cartoons, and mama watches movies and draws pictures all day, and that's work.
Everyone's all making they're trying to like poke at Nick to see if there's other stuff coming that we don't know about yet. Brainy's asking, are you working on DuckTales and Tailspin as well? And then Preston said, as Rescue Rangers next. So I think everyone's having fond remembrances of all of those.
It's
things
so
that came out at the
fun.
same time.
Rescue Rangers would be fun to do. But yeah, unfortunately, right now I'm only working on Darkwing Duck. If anybody wants to tap me to do any of the other nostalgic things, I'm definitely game. I enjoy doing the throwback stuff. But yeah, right now it's just Darkwing. It's all about Darkwing.
Mhm. And so I think Preston asked earlier, what drew you to Darkwing Duck? And I don't know if he means to work on or if he means as a kid watching it.
Well, I mean, luckily, well, as a kid watching it, it's the balance of like the humor and then the fun, like, you know, actiony, detective-y, comic-y kind of thing. I mean, you know, it's such a fun, like, because it's parody, but it's also just like doing the thing. It's a delightful, fun, funny show. And I always love anything that leads into the humor of anything, you know, parody humor, like the idea that it kind of is like a Batman in the Shadow kind of spoof is very appealing to me. And something that I like a lot and hopefully played with well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. Everyone's after some inside information today. Oh my goodness. Sean asks, are you able to say where or when in the Darkwing Duck universe the book starts?
I will say it kind of is it's around the end of the television run is where I would place it. Without getting too specific into like what happens or whatever, I would say that that's around there. It's, you know, Darkwing Duck is fully, it's not a reboot. It's not a new origin story. He's fully who he is from the jump.
I'm sure everyone right now is like using their Googles to find out where Darkwing Duck is streaming.
It's on Disney Plus.
Oh, there you go.
I know, because I reference it all the time. I go back and like, wait, what happened in that? You know, so.
The producer says that Jim Cummings is one of the many voices of their childhood.
Mm-hmm.
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 Oh, yeah. Like how Nick just posted the word tails. We don't know what that is. Is that a hint? Tails. That's all you get.
Tails.
Oh, my goodness. So for the series, is it an open-ended series or?
This 6-issue arc definitely has its own conclusion, but it could, you know, if they want me to continue doing it, I could continue doing it.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so John just asked the same question I did. That's awesome. We're all thinking the same way. Way to go, guys. And Brainy asked, does the book take into account the new DuckTales and DW being only a TV show?
Not really. There are some crossover characters that, you know, as you know, in those Duck verses, there are crossover characters, and some of those appear in the comics as well.
I had forgotten that. Now that opens up the world.
Mm-hmm. You know, people got very excited to see Mira Allison in the little preview pages that came out. So I can say that because people have seen that. But, yeah.
Okay, Sean's got a good question. You guys are asking good questions today. Thank you. In writing Darkwing, what have you discovered about the character that makes you like them more?
Oh, that's a nice question. I really leaned into Drake Mallard as a father as well. You know, that thing where you're grappling with the superhero life, but he also has his adopted daughter. And so like I found that I really liked playing with that relationship and like how meaningful, you know, because he is such like an arrogant, kind of selfish, vain guy. But then obviously there is this other person that he actually does care about more than himself. And that's a fun area for me and very appealing to me, probably because I'm also a mother. But that's something that I really enjoyed specifically like delving into in this run.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, Brainy asks, who's your favorite character to write? I'm assuming he's not just asking about Darkwing Duck characters.
I mean, it's a great question overall. I say in Darkwing Duck, I really like Morgana Macabre. She's a very fun one. And then I will say, like, in the universe at large, that becomes a harder question. But I had a really good time with Rocket and Groot. I like, and the same thing when I was doing like Teen Titans Go, like when I get to really lean into like the comedy, the zany, like just these kind of worlds and characters where anything goes, like you can have the craziest idea and that's perfectly fine. And you can write it in there and that's fine. And then the next thing you know, like, I don't know, Rocket singing a sea shanty and dancing on a TikTok, it could literally just be anything and it doesn't matter, which is fun.
Yeah, I'm so happy about that you can just kind of use whatever you want to make a story amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Brainy says Morgana rocks. You must have picked his favorite.
She's a good one.
A comment is, can't wait to travel back to St. Canard and see what you've created.
I'm excited about it. I'm excited that it's finally here, when you start working on something and before you can tell anybody about it, and then you're sitting on it for so long, and then it's like, I feel like it's been months since it's very exciting that it's finally coming out on Wednesday.
Oh yeah. So what's wonderful about your body of work is it's really like anybody that their family has different age groups or friends that they want to get attracted to comic books. Then you've got work and just something for everybody, really.
Yeah, I just got my comps yesterday for DC's Harley Quinn romances, which is, play on the Harley Quinn romance with the gorgeous covers. Oh my God, that look like the old romance. I'm just obsessed with the covers. But yeah, it's just, and then there's also like Darkwing coming out. This, it's all kinds of different things.
That's amazing. All right. Where is the best place for people to follow you? It sounds like Twitter, if they want to answer your awesome questions.
Yes. If you want me to probe deeply into your life, follow me on Twitter at Amanda Deibert. But I also, post comic stuff and ridiculous things about my life. And I Twitter is my favorite way to procrastinate while I'm writing. So I'm on it all the time. And then it's also Amanda Deibert Official on Instagram. I'm on TikTok figuring out how to TikTok at Amanda Deibert. So, there's various places.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, I just want to tell everyone it's not too late. Go to your local comic shop and let them know that you want to add Darkwing Duck to your polls. It helps them very much. It helps Amanda to know that she's doing a great job. And you should buy an extra for a friend because be a good friend. Thank you so much, Amanda. I appreciate your time so much. I know you've got a lot going on, and we love everything you've done in the comic book industry. Keep on going. We'll keep reading and enjoying all your good work.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
I appreciate you. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next time for Talkin' Shop.
Join the party. Head over to our Linktree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.